Audio sync. Hey, what is up guys? David Zhao here and welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk to you guys about the top 3 pieces of filmmaking gear that I regret buying. I know it's been a hot second since I've last uploaded, my bad guys, but I'm back at it now. This is a brand new setup. We're shooting in the office. I'm currently shooting on a Blue Yeti USB microphone, recording externally to the desktop, and then I'm recording the video on the A6500 with the 16mm Sigma lens at f2.8. So I'm just kind of curious, what do you guys think about this setup? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Thoughts down in the comment section below. Okay, so back on topic, 3 things I regret buying. So in the past 3 to 4 years of my filmmaking career, if you'd call it, from doing freelance work to doing personal projects to doing YouTube, I've bought a lot of gear, like an unsettling amount of gear. But there are some purchases that are much better than others, and we're here to talk about the purchases that, if I could go back and hit the refund button, I definitely would. And number 1 on that list is Gimbles. Wait a second. David Zhao, the proponent for Gimbles, who makes all these YouTube reviews about Gimbles, regrets buying Gimbles? Okay, so it's not like that. Individually, if you look at all the Gimbles I own, they all do their job and I'm very happy with any of them. I could take any single one of them and I would be glad to shoot with it for like the next 5 years. Here's the problem. I've owned, I think, like 7 Gimbles in 3 or 4 years, maybe 4 years. I think 4 years is safe to say. But my first gimbal I bought was the Ronin M. And I probably could have just stopped there. I didn't need to buy any other gimbals. That gimbal is still in the closet, right back there. And it is super fantastic. It has strong motor strength, great battery life, a workhorse. I later bought the Zhuin,
so this is the correct pronunciation for Zhuin.
I bought the Zhuin crane way back when it first came out. Love the fact, small form factor, revolutionary. It was a 2-hand vertical grip, loved it. I specifically bought it because I shot a lot of fitness videos in the gym, so having a Ronin M was too big for casual shooting in the gym. It really drew a lot of attention. So here comes a downward spiral of rationalizing our purchases. It was a great purchase, but I felt like it could be better. So when the Crane 2 came out, I bought it immediately. Except I realized I bought the wrong gimbal. I bought the Zhuin Crane V2. Not the 2, the V2. Realized it probably within like a week of buying it. I was looking up these tutorials and I was like, this doesn't look like the same gimbal. I used it for a week or 2. One good thing about the V2, by the way, is it's a really, really small, extremely lightweight gimbal. But it wasn't the 2 that I wanted that had strong motor strength, a larger carrying capacity, all these nifty features. So I sold the V2. I had already sold the original by this point. I bought the 2. Man, that thing was great. I still have it. I still need to sell it. But it was a great gimbal. At that point, could have stopped there. But then comes the Weeble Lab, and I was like, oh dude, the Weeble Lab is so sick. This thing is tiny, it is portable, it can carry basically the one gimbal setup I use nowadays, which is the A7 III and the Sony 24 GM. And I still love it. I still think to this day it is my favorite out of all of my gimbals just because of the size factor. I can take it wherever I want to go. But then I saw how ridiculously cheap the Feiyutech AK2000 was, and I mean now it's only $300. If you want to see a review of that, here I think is where that link would be. I really wanted to review this gimbal just because it's $300 and it does what you need it to do. Now sometimes it gets a little quirky. It's not the perfect gimbal, but for a $300 gimbal, it does insanely well. But like, then I take 10 steps back and I'm making this video and I go, did I really need to buy all those gimbals? Probably not. So if I could go back, probably wouldn't buy all those gimbals. Probably would only have 2 at most, a larger, stronger, heavy-duty workhorse for professional jobs and a smaller, lightweight one for travel at most. So moving on to number 2 on the list of things I regret buying. I had the original GoPro 2, 3, 4, and now the Hero Session. I basically upgraded my GoPro every single year that they announced a new GoPro. And you know, I feel like GoPros are one of those things where every single time you hear about it, you get real jacked about it. You're really jazzed about the new, the latest, the greatest GoPro because it gets smaller, it gets better waterproofing, the audio gets better, stabilization, slow motion, ultra wide, etc. There's so many new things they add each year, which is actually impressive how they can iterate each year and still bring something new. Honestly. But I realized that by the time I got to the Hero session, I was like, I'm upgrading every year, but I'm using the Hero like once or twice a year. Obviously, I always justified to myself like, oh, you know, when I go on a trip with a net, I'm gonna bring this because it can go in the water. It's really small, so it's super easy to use, and I don't have to bring a camera around. But like that really only happens like once or twice in the year where I actually pull it out and get more than like a minute's worth of footage. And finally, I think the thing I regret buying the most is just overly expensive gear that I didn't necessarily need. And for example, and God, this really hurt when I looked up how much this cost because I forgot how much this cost, but I have a Rhino 42-inch Evo slider with the motorized unit, right? This thing is a great piece of equipment and it's sitting in that closet and it gets used about once a year, sometimes more if I want to shoot B-roll shots with it, but it costs $1,200. And it mostly collects dust most of the year. And the thing is, having a slider in my, equipment closet, in my repertoire, is a good idea. But did I need a $1,200 slider that is so heavy duty that it really should be used with 2 tripods, one on each side? It can hold up to like 40, 50 pounds. Did I need all those features? Probably not. I probably could have got away with something that's half that price, a quarter of that price. Did I need the motorized unit? Maybe, but there are now so many motorized units, sliders on the market, even small sliders, which I probably would use more. I see these ads all the time for small, like foot-long sliders that take up no footprint in like a camera bag, and it's like a quarter of the price. And I'm tempted to buy it, but I know that's a bad idea. That's the point of this video. But that's probably the biggest piece of gear that I regret buying. It's just spending so much money on equipment that ends up sitting in the closet, and that just really feels bad. So what did I learn out of this whole experience of all these years of buying equipment and now sitting here and reflecting back on the equipment I've purchased that I go, oh, that's probably not a good idea that I bought it. What did I really learn out of that? Well, one, don't buy gear just because you want it. Really evaluate if you need the gear. It's so easy to get caught up in the hype when YouTubers are dropping reviews like just this past few weeks when the Mavic Mini was announced, and then every YouTuber had a review unit and talked about the Mavic Mini, how it's only $400, how it's the size of an iPhone. It's really easy to just get caught up in it. You start rationalizing to yourself if you need it, your use cases, but honestly, do you need it? Evaluate if it's something that will allow you to expand your skill set, if it's something for you to try and learn, or if it's just something you want because that's what everyone is using currently and it sounds cool. And the best example of this are Gimbles. I started off with what some people will consider a very strong prosumer gimbal, the Ronin M, which can handle about every single payload I can give it. And I ended up going down in weight class for a smaller, compact, lightweight gimbal. But did I need that jump? Did I need to buy that? The second thing I learned was to not make every incremental upgrade, going from the GoPro 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to the Session. It's like in a recent video MKBHD made about the iPhone 10 versus the iPhone, like the original iPhone, and how everyone nowadays complains that, oh, the new iPhone is just the old iPhone, but slightly better on specs. But over time, that's the point. Over time, it went from this crappy iPhone that we all used to own to an iPhone 10, which is like light years beyond the technology of that old predecessor. So when you buy gear, use it for a while. Yes, it's gonna feel dated when you compare it to the gear that you see other filmmakers use in person or on the internet, on YouTube, when every year people are now like, oh look, I'm using the A7 IV, A7 IX, A7 25, right? You're gonna feel like, oh man, my gear's dated. Maybe I need to upgrade my gear to keep up. But do you need to? No. Make impactful purchases. Buy things when you really need a big upgrade, and both your clients and your audience will notice dramatic changes in quality over like incremental changes. Like, oh, if I just added a slightly better light, like if I swapped out this 120T for a 120D Mark II, like you guys aren't gonna notice the increase in like 2 CRI. But if I were to replace like an A5100 with an A6600, then yeah, maybe you'd probably see the camera quality difference. Make meaningful, large, impactful upgrades. And finally, buy gear that you need. And this goes both ways. This is a great rule to help you decide if you want to buy something. If you don't need it, hold off on it for now. Wait a week or two. That feeling that you have of, oh man, I really want that, it's probably gonna die down and it's gonna stop nagging at the back of your brain. But if you need something, like let's say you do event videos all the time, let's say you do weddings like every single weekend, maybe buying an FS5 or an FS7 because you need the unlimited recording time, because you need the larger battery capacity, because you need the modularity of that system, then yeah, probably it's a good idea and you should buy it. Yes, it's gonna be expensive, but if it's something expensive and that you need, it's worth it. That is truly an investment. But if you're just upgrading from the A7 III to the eventual A7 IV and the only difference is that, oh, it gained 5 megapixels and maybe there's a bump in slight camera quality, but that's really not gonna pay back dividends on your investment. So recently, when I was making this video, I reached out to a bunch of my filmmaking friends to see, am I alone in this bubble of, man, I really regret buying gear? And just about every single filmmaking friend came back and said, yeah, there were pieces of gear that they wish they didn't buy. There are some Kickstarter projects that they bought pre-ordered on and they got it and then they just didn't use it. Like, it sounded like a great idea, but then they got it in their hands and they just didn't use it. And as a great friend, photographer, videographer, entrepreneur extraordinaire, Gordon Lee from Arizona put it, it's bad when you're in a place where you can't afford it, but you end up wanting to buy into the hype and you put it on your credit card and can't make your money back from clients. That's a bad investment. And yeah, that's the definition of a bad return on investments. This isn't to discourage you from exploring and buying new pieces of equipment. For example, I own a decent amount of lenses, and to some people, they might have said, hey, you could have just stopped at like 2 lenses. Yeah, I could have just bought the 24-70 GM and the 70-200 GM and probably covered all of my use cases for everything I do. But I also own the 24 GM, I also own the 85 GM. I also own an entire lineup of lenses for my APS-C body, the Sigma 16, the Sigma 30, the Sigma 56. But these purchases have been useful to me, they've been consistently used, and it adds both value to what I produce and also brings convenience to my life, which is invaluable in a sense because your time is valuable. You know what I mean? And there are things that I've bought and I've sold, but I don't regret buying them. For example, I bought the DJI Phantom 2 when that came out, and that cost a pretty penny back then because I actually had no client work back then, and I honestly didn't end up using the drone that much. And then I sold it. And then 2 years later, I bought a DJI Mavic. Why did I do that? I literally sold, because when I bought the DJI Mavic, I had a purpose, I had a use for it. I was covering a lot of events that required aerial photography. At the time, clients, I wasn't buying into the fad, but the clients were buying into, oh, everything needs aerial coverage. So I got a drone because that's what the clients were requesting, so I did it. But now, as I've been perfecting my deliverables, I realized, hey, I can deliver the same result, still wow the client, but without it. So I ended up getting rid of the drone. And that's mainly because I didn't like using it that much. I hated carrying around an extra set of batteries to charge. I hated having to deal with weather conditions when I needed to fly it. That was a whole nother variable to throw into an already hectic day of shooting. But I do not regret the least for buying the drones because I learned from owning those pieces of equipment what they can do, what kind of value they bring to a production, and more importantly, it got rid of this feeling of the fear of missing out, if you want to put it that way. So those were my thoughts on gear that I regretted buying, the rules I ended up building around it, and lessons to take away from it. So I'm curious, do you have any pieces of filmmaking equipment that you've bought that you've kind of regretted? What were they? What did you do? Did you sell them? Do you still have them? Are they just still sitting in on your shelf, just collecting dust? Let me know in the comment section down below, and I'm really curious. Something else I want to know in the comment section down below. This is the new recording setup that I kind of want to stick with. I really like this so far. So again, earlier I said, let me know what you think, but also, what do I put over here? Because it's just currently a closet door. This side looks fine. I'm okay with it. I'm happy with it. This looks ugly. If any of you DIY savvy people in the comments want to let me know, what can I do to spruce up this section of that wall because it is an eyesore right now, and I've looked at it like a million times while recording this video on the monitor up there. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to know the moment a video drops, go ahead and ring that bell. Whew. Okay, so as always, I'll see you in the next video.